Aloha and e como mai. That's a warm hello and welcome in the native Hawaiian language called Olelo. This is Thomas, and my pronouns are he and him. Thank you for joining me. This podcast is being recorded in Honolulu, Hawaii. I acknowledge that the unceded Aina or land on which I live, called Kakako, is part of the larger territory recognized by Kanaka Maoli or Indigenous Hawaiians. I'm honored and grateful to be a guest of the Hawaiian Kingdom. I love the word refresh. It's such a perfect word to describe starting again or returning to something. In fact, we even use it as a computer term, don't we? Sometimes when I'm working on my computer, I leave it for a little while and then come back, things freeze up. Certain programs aren't working anymore or working properly. So I have to refresh my computer screen, and there are actually even times when it means I need to completely reboot. Can you relate to that in relation to your emotions and refreshing them? I read recently a very simple but symbolic and practical way to refresh your home. Open the back door, let out the old energy. Open the front door, let in new energy. Letting in the freshness, letting out the stale. I sense it's a powerful way to energize or re-energize our lives. In this podcast, I want to share how it is we might consider a refresh on an emotional level. I'll offer some very pragmatic ways to do this, all nestled in a bit of philosophy through some examples that I'll share. I really believe our emotions need a refresh, perhaps even more often than our physical spaces we call home. The darker days of winter drag on too long. I'm recently back from Vancouver. I'm back to Honolulu. The darkness there, especially with the play in our humanity, the play on time using daylight savings, really wreaks havoc with my circadian rhythm. Getting my ass out of bed in Vancouver at that time of year, at this time of year, is actually a real chore. At times, everyday life can present a level of monotony and stress, usually landing on fear over some issue in life. Both circumstances can be emotional depleters. There are many things we can do to refresh and energize ourselves emotionally. In this podcast, I'm going to share seven different ways that I've thought of, adding some personal examples in the mix to help you refresh your emotional wellness. And of course, pick as many as you like, toss out as many as you like, and if any resonate with you, maybe share them with family and friends. And of course, emotions, whether we realize it or not, beg. They actually do beg to be refreshed. And there are many ways we can, and many things we can do to refresh and energize ourselves emotionally. The first of the seven I'm going to share with you is something I call the unplug. Unplug from people, unplug from noise, unplug from thinking, and even unplug from actually being awake. This actually stops all the stimulus coming at you. Then when you connect, it is actually like kind of rebooting yourself emotionally. And of course, you can do this through solitude. You can actually do it through silence. You can do it through rest. You can do it through escaping into a book or a movie. And of course, you can do it through sleep. I use a collection of, and I've mentioned this in other podcasts, I've used a collection of essential oils, peppermint, rosemary, bergamot, pine, ginger, lemongrass. I use them as lifters and stabilizers of my emotional refreshment. They make a big difference. Actually, burning in the background right now is, can I remember which one I have on? Oh, it's actually really lovely. It is yuzu. So it's citrus, Japanese citrus, that provides a little bit of a lift. I thought I needed that today in actually recording and finishing this podcast as far as the script is concerned. So it really helps with my emotional refreshment as well. The second is what I like to call refill. So refilling emotionally is done through our five senses, right? Through hearing, through smelling, through seeing, through feeling, and of course, through taste. They inspire us and reinvigorate us. And of course, you can do this refill through listening to music, reading something inspirational or encouraging, watching a movie, but make that watching of a movie, make it one that can actually pull at your heartstrings. listening to recordings of nature, waterfall waves, thunder, rain. Better yet, get to the source if you can. Watching sunrises and sunsets. Reading from your favorite spiritual text. And any kind of exercise that actually gets the blood pumping. And with that, I would encourage this idea of hydration, staying hydrated. And let me add a bit of energy to the suggestion about staying hydrated. Although the human body on average is 60% water, most of us are actually chronically dehydrated. And dehydrated is actually associated with brain fog and fatigue, not conducive to the optimal life of the mind or your heart for that matter. My dear mom hated drinking water. She was chronically dehydrated, which led to a malady of disorders in her life. She just wouldn't drink water. And obviously there is little that could get in the way of drinking the optimal amount of water your body needs in the course of your day. And I've even discovered that there are apps that can help you remind yourself to drink. I had a colleague at work in Vancouver whose app sounded like running water when it was time for her to drink. And for me, all it did for me was send me off to the washroom to pee. So I don't use an app to remind me to drink water. The challenge with dehydration, it can negatively impact our emotions by causing feelings of irritability, anxiety, fatigue, and even depression. Mom had all of those. Dehydration disrupts brain function. It's really a launch pad for being emotionally unregulated. The third is to have fun. If you never did, you should. These things are fun, and fun is good. That's the wisdom of Dr. Seuss. Doing something you enjoy stirs up the endorphins and replenishes you emotionally. And of course, you can get your fun on with these suggestions. Play. I'd even amp the play to goofiness. With my goddaughter in Calgary and her older brother, I do goofy really well, and they love it. It's a great way to connect with these two beautiful souls. Perhaps there's a hobby that will bring you fun. Kayaking, quilting, knitting, thrift store shopping. And I throw this in as an homage to my dear friend Kristen. Dancing to your favorite music, going to the gym. Of course, laughter, watching good comedies. I actually, in 2025, am intending to watch more programs that make me laugh. Taking a long drive to a planned destination or just a drive for fun. The fourth is to unload. Unload all the bottled up emotions. You might not even be aware of some things going on inside you. And the unload can take place through journaling, through meditation, through prayer. There are some great breathing exercises. Box breathing is really good. Having a really great therapeutic cry. Most of us call it our ugly cry. Hiring a life coach. Leaning on services of a professional therapist or counselor. Emotions, or as I like to call them, energy and motion, are obviously, I'm preaching to the choir here, they're an important part of us. Taking good care of them will add to your overall health and support your desire to move forward in your life. Try a moving or walking meditation. And of course, you might say meditation's not a quick hit for refreshing myself. And I hear you. And of course, I thought the same thing, but it can be. Meditation does not need to be sitting on a cushion, noticing your breath. I learned a walking meditation from a Buddhist monk while I lived in Vancouver. I learned that years ago. A moving meditation, a walking meditation really only requires awareness of your surroundings. I do it on a lot of the beaches here in Honolulu, and I've done it actually while walking a labyrinth at a church in Vancouver's West End. I find it actually divine. You can walk while observing your body and how it moves, how your feet feel connecting with the ground, noticing the sounds, the sights, and the smells around you. Or you can kind of decomplicate that. Is that even a word? Uncomplicate that. Because you can walk like I was taught while reciting a single word as your foot lifts, and that single word again as your foot touches the ground. It's a delicious way to simply return to engaging in the only thing that we have, this present moment, of course, called now. The fifth suggestion I'm going to make is get outside. Right? I think many of you know that at one point in time, there were 7 Dolan kids. That's not true. There were 10 Dolan kids. I was the seventh of those 10. And all mom ever said when it actually didn't really matter how cold it was. We were allowed to stay at home from school if it was minus 36. That's Fahrenheit in those days. If it was minus 35, outside we went. So get outside. Getting outside can do wonders in many ways. Nature has an energy we can pick up on when we actually get near her. The earth has actually an electric charge that helps us ground ourselves. My husband and I use a grounding sheet on all the beds that we sleep on. And I think of outside as wonders. Let the wonders of the outside world inside of you. And you can do that through breathing in a fresh air, taking a long walk in nature, working in the garden, sitting on the front porch listening to the birds, drinking in sunrises and sunsets, sitting in the sand watching the waves roll in, walking along the beach feeling the waves lap over your feet. Getting outside, if only for a few minutes, is vital. My husband and I are blessed and privileged to live a stone's throw from a beautiful park called Kaka'ako Beach Park here in Honolulu. Walking to it and then standing atop the walkway adjacent to the ocean, breathing in the air immediately invigorates us. Oftentimes, the adventure is a mood changer. Just a little bit of a change in perspective is powerfully healing. The sixth is what I like to call the power to connect. Connecting with others invigorates us. Lack of connection causes pain because we weren't created to exist alone. We need connection for our emotional well-being. Do you know, or did you know that experiencing loneliness can wreak a similar havoc on our health as would a 15 per day cigarette habit? Isn't that brutal? So we can connect by spending time with family, having a coffee, and I mean a live coffee visit with a friend, sharing a meal with another friend, snuggling with your beloved, connecting with your experience of a higher power, whatever it is that you call that higher power. And I'm choosing, and this is really interesting for 2025, I've begun to not connect to social media for an hour after I wake up, and I stop connecting to it an hour before I go to bed, just as a way to refresh my emotions, to stabilize myself from the energy of social media. I'm also considering taking 2 to 3 days per week, having no social media interaction whatsoever, all as a way to keep my emotional life refreshed. I'm also off news completely. My husband might share from time to time something he feels is important for me to know from the news. No news is a huge refresh to my emotional health. Barbara Rosenwein is a professor emerita at Loyola University in Chicago, and she's author of a book called Anger, The Conflicted History of an Emotion. And of course, she says that social media can make you believe a minority view is the majority view. Don't we know that all too well? People validate each other's anger and amplify it. She shares, over time, the possibility of feeling righteous anger has become democratized. Everybody feels almost obligated to feel it. And isn't anger exhausting? Find ways to engage in human touch. We human beings need touch. Being touch-starved can lead to greater anxiety, to depression, to stress, difficulty sleeping, and relationship challenges. Babies who are not held or cuddled suffer from deprived oxytocin systems, making it harder to read social cues or even being more sociable later in life. If you feel safe, get a massage. Get your nails done. Hug an animal, your fur baby or someone else's fur baby. Ask for hugs from folks you feel connected to and safe. I remember asking my mom a number of weeks before she took her last breath what her life had been like without an intimate partner. Tears welled up in her eyes, and she gently shared missing the mere warmth of someone next to her. I joined her tears with mine. If you can't hug someone else, hug yourself. Reminds me of a RuPaul. If you can't love yourself, how can you love somebody else? If you can't hug yourself, if you can't hug someone else, hug yourself. Yeah, that's right. Hugging yourself for even a few seconds can release oxytocin and make you feel better. Imagine the kind of hug you need right now. Is it strong and intense? Is it soft and soothing? It doesn't hurt to give yourself a positive message at the same time, like, you've got this. The seventh is a call to make a change. Making a change creates a newness that refreshes. Changes can be to our surroundings, to ourselves, our situation, or more. You can change things up in your life through cleaning out a closet, for that matter, coming out of the closet, getting rid of stuff or decluttering, getting a new hairstyle, rearranging your furniture, cleaning your house, changing that routine of yours. Hell, even use your non-dominant arm when you use the back scrubber in the shower. It's something that I do. And take a different way home from work or from the store. And I know that you know emotions are an important part of yourself. And taking good care of them will add to your overall health and help you accomplish what's important to you. I've shared just a few examples. The list is as endless as your imagination. Some of the examples refresh and energize in actually more than one way. However you decide to go about it, your emotional health will thank you. Allow me to close with this. It's a beautiful quote. All emotions, whether we view them as good or bad, have a single essence that's beyond good or bad. No matter what they look like on the surface or how you judge them, emotions at their core are basically positive. Instead of seeing only opposition or contradiction, you see an unbiased wholeness. You recognize that all of your emotions spring from the same source, the spontaneous, ever-present creative energy of your own mind, your own heart. This is from a book called Emotional Rescue by an author whose name is Dzogchen Rinpoche Ponlop. Thank you for sharing these moments with me. It's always helpful to have you rate, review, and share my podcasts with family and friends, along with subscribing to Conversations with Thomas wherever you get your podcasts. I'm a huge proponent of taking charge of your mental health, and that means actually seeking advice from professional therapists, counselors, psychologists, physicians, and other qualified professionals. These conversations are meant to help you find a place of inquiry, but if you're experiencing ongoing mental health challenges, please seek support from a licensed professional. I've not intended that anything I share is a replacement for the advice you're receiving from those professionals. Most of what I share as subject matter on these podcasts is usually sourced from extraordinary insights from friends, from family, things I bump into on my daily walk along life's path. And of course, I add a healthy dose of research to them. So it actually sounds to some degree that I know what I'm talking about. Conversations with Thomas is produced by me, Thomas Kevin Dolan. It's also executive produced by my purveyor of all things techie, the love of my life, my amazing husband, Adam Mo. I'd love to hear from you. If you're comfortable, please email me at conversationswt, that would be conversations, W is with, T is Thomas, at gmail.com. I'd love to read your feedback on my podcasts, hear your suggestions for future conversations with Thomas. And if you're comfortable sharing the impact of these episodes, I'd be honored to hear that. Thank you.